Just dropped, fresh, right out of the oven. Did I know they were going to have a patch? I did, actually. Did I know it was going to be before Katowice? Announced for Katowice? I did, actually. Let's actually look at them. Zerg. Actually, you know what? I'll preface this. Having conversations with Alex, let's say ASL, but it's really, I think, Alex being a driving force here. He really, I think, has a good grasp on everything that the community needs, and he's a very good StarCraft 2 player. If you guys don't know him, he is still commentating, I believe, and doing content creation, but he's been a commentator for a long time, really highly skilled player as well, GM in all 3 races, I believe, and seems to really have good head on his shoulders. So when they came to us with the changes, I was already pretty happy with everything they identified, and then the solutions they came up with. But this was also with, apparently, the help of the pros, right? So this wasn't just one person. So the pros actually got to do feedback, I don't know, sessions, or just give feedback in general. And the real important thing is that there is people there to kind of sift through the not great suggestions and give us something that's really workable. So now, let's look at it. So Zerg, Creep Tumor, cooldown increased from 11 to 13, sight range reduced from 11 to 10. So I guess this means, because it's not the Queen, it says Creep Tumor. I'm guessing this means the actual cooldown of when it becomes active again. Watch it count down and then go, oh yeah, I can spread creep again. Well, this is now 13 seconds, so it's a nerf. Sight reduced is a nerf as well. It's not by too much, but it is important that it's not by too much. As much as creep can be talked about as being a bad design. You know, if you make a fresh RTS, you wouldn't include creep. Okay, fine. It is still important to how StarCraft 2 currently plays out, so you don't want to nerf it all the way. So I think that's great. Hatchery, lair, and hive, creep spread interval, literally when the buildings build and then they spread to creep. It's interesting that they include building creep and sight range of buildings, of the main buildings specifically. This is, I think, something that's never been done before, and it's also what I liked of hearing all these suggestions and hearing what their plans were, was that it felt like they were thinking outside of just simple number nerfs. By simple number nerfs, I mean movement increase or building time. Like, they actually looked at some of the other stats that make StarCraft tick, and some of the other things that can, I guess, affect balance. So you wouldn't... I don't think anyone was really talking about this, but apparently someone did. Someone noticed that this could be improved. So the interval is actually decreased. I think this is a buff, right? I think this is actually like when you watch the creep push forward, like if you're bunker rushing them. This might actually be because of a bunker rush. Interesting. And the sight range increase would also affect bunker rushes. Sight range increased from 10, 11, 12 to just 12. So yeah, this is a nerf to proxy racks. In that regard, I'm not surprised to see that someone was complaining about it, right? And they're thinking of solutions, but interesting solutions. It would be far too easy to hear that someone does not like the 2 racks and literally, not meme, say, we'll decrease or increase the bunker build speed. I think you can't ever do that ever in the history, or future rather, of StarCraft because of its history, but that would be a approach. And instead they did this, which is kind of cool. Does it mean that hatchery sight increased from 10 to 12? I believe so. Yeah, it means that everything is to 12. What Diggle Diggle is saying. Hatch, lair, hive, 10, 11, 12. Now it's all 12. I think. Was the 2 racks actually an overpowered strat? I feel like if it was really overpowered, people would always do it, but... suppose the argument's then that they would just pull first every time. But I certainly don't mind seeing this change. See how it works out. See if maybe it swings the pendulum too far the other way. All right, Viper added a 0.71 second cast finish time to Abduct. This was one of those that I was just really excited about because it was something other than movement speed. There's a lot of almost miscellaneous, just numbers that are input into units and buildings and StarCraft in general that people just don't think of unless they really start to dig deep into its programming. They go into its own, their own modding, or they actually pay attention to some of the nerdier people in StarCraft. So, something that a lot of people don't talk about is like turn radius. But regardless. The cast finish time to abduct. It doesn't look like there's a finish, I suppose, on the Viper. A very slight difference that you can do, 0.71 seconds, where it can't just immediately move away. So you kind of think of the Viper come in, steal the Thor, and move away. It adds 7.71 seconds to that moving away, or I guess double abducting, I suppose. But yeah, particularly I keep thinking of the time it takes to move away. It will stop a bit longer if shift queued. I think that's literally what they wanted to hit. So yes. And it's obviously very super small, but I also think this is going to put it a little more in line with how other spellcasters kind of finish their spells. Cast finish time, right? So adding this tiny little add-on to the abduct spell, I think, is a really good approach. Ultralisk size reduced. This is actually something I think has been talked about a lot if the Ultralisk ever came up in conversation. But the Ultralisk, despite being seen as a bit of a meme unit sometimes, almost never seriously, I don't know, was really complained about. So, but I feel like I've seen this suggestion for years now. All of Legacy of the Void, maybe. So it's just kind of neat that they're going to go through with it. So the size reduction is a buff. It's going to make it less derpy as it runs around and gets through SimCity, because that's mostly where Ultras start to lose their power and become a meme unit, is when they start to attack. Increased range slop from 1 to 1.4. Again, one of these aspects of the game that people don't think of. So they explain it. Range target can move before miss. Hey, look at this metal monkey. What is range slop? How much difference it will allow between acquiring the range for an attack and the attack itself. Because the attack animation itself takes time. It is a buff. Yeah, it has more range before it misses. Yeah. I figured it out, guys. It has more range before it misses. It doesn't have to move as much overall. Yeah. But I think we figured it out, guys. I think we figured it out. So yeah, it's a buff. Ultras got buffed. Hydralisk. Muscular augments move speed bonus increased rather heavily. Had this been nerfed in the past, or am I... Maybe that's just because they was on 2 different upgrades versus 1 upgrade. I don't know if the actual move speed bonus has been changed before. That is quite a lot. So they're going to be a little feisty. That also affects... Move speed also greatly affects their micro ability. Damage point reduced from 0.15 to 0.1. And I used to know what damage point meant, but this is also something I'm going to have to be reminded of. I think damage point is delay between using and damage being dealt. Using... being dealt. The delay before you fire the attack. It's very noticeable with Hellions. I understand, yes. Hellions, yes. That's a good example. When you watch Hellions stop and shoot, there's a delay. Marines have a very low damage point. Yes. Yes. That sentence alone reminded me. I think that was literally a sentence used in that video I was talking about. Great job, guys. We're figuring this out together. So damage point was reduced, which means it's better. It's a buff. So they can shoot fast like a Marine. Yeah, faster bullets. More microable is really what this does. So the speed bonus will be obviously noticeable as far as it reacting to stuff going around a map, but the damage point is very much what we usually consider something that is microable versus not microable. Broodlord, move speed increase from 1.97 to 2.3. I was expecting something more complicated, honestly, after all of that. But nope, just move speed. That's fine. Reacts to things a bit quicker. Broodling, duration reduced. Oh, by 2 seconds, more than 2 seconds. A broodling's duration. So this must include broodlings from broodlords and from killed buildings. Wow, that actually significantly changes not usually very important moments, but it would definitely be noticeable. Running away after you kill a hatchery when you 2-rax or cannon rush. Not that you weren't with the cannon rush, but anyways. Running away from broodlings. This will make it also harder to do the chain broodling thing you can do, right? With broodlords. I mean, you can still do the chain, it just won't reach as far. Way faster mass Hydra is going to change the amount of tanks you need to deal with them. Yeah, more microable units. The more microable a unit, the better they can be against splash. Just kind of how it goes, isn't it? Tanks are very good when you can't micro. Ravager build time increased. Which I didn't necessarily have a terrible... I didn't actually have an opinion about Ravagers. I try my hardest not to have strong balanced opinions to begin with. I wonder what in particular they were complaining about. Zerg cheeses versus Terran? Probably not what people were complaining about. This must be more of a Protoss versus Zerg complaint. Yeah, there must be a serious complaint somewhere, because this is a huge nerf. 5 seconds. Might be fast enough to fast 3 Ravager stuff, but I just don't think that's a problem. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe professional Terrans are just shaking their head at me right now, but I didn't think it was that much of a problem. I feel like Protoss... I think, you know what? I think we actually did talk about this. I think it was more about Protoss attacks. Protoss don't get the fair amount of time, is the argument. They don't get a fair amount of time to surprise a Zerg. So as they poke in, the Zerg goes, oh shit, they're attacking, and then they transform the Ravagers, and it's way too fast. I think this is actually what we talked about. This is very familiar to me. Or I made it up in my head. Either one. But I think the point is correct. I think that would affect that directly. So the Protoss is like, boo, 6 Stalkers. And the Zerg goes, oh god, my Roaches aren't Ravagers yet. And then the extra 5 seconds is the difference of the Ravagers being done or that second warp in being on the front lines kind of thing. Obviously not a direct comparison, but just the 5 seconds is a big deal in game. Having the Ravagers now suddenly be forming back on their natural and only then coming up to the front lines, like that's huge in StarCraft 2 terms. Or tank pushes. Yeah, Roach Ravager's not as popular in that matchup though. And for ZVZ, obviously balance is kind of a funny thing in mirror matchups, but I'm guessing this isn't anything for ZVZ. I'm pretty sure it's all about PVZ. Might unintentionally make ZVZ kind of early mid-game Roach pushes even more dangerous. Comebacks less likely to happen. We'll see. Protoss, shield battery. Battery overcharge, recharge rate reduced from 200% to 150%. Thought it was how fast to charge the shields. Oh shit, I think you're right. No, you're absolutely right. That's my bad. I dumbed it down way too much. You're right, that's more interesting. It's not the time of which the energy replaces. That would be the energy accumulate. Whatever, anyways. No, I think you're right. It's how much it shields the thing it's shielding. Or how fast it does. Okay, so yeah, just to be clear, recharge rate, so how much it zoops the Stalker that it's healing up. So early attacks are a bit more effective. Battery overcharge is less effective. Observer, move speed increased. They are literally taking away the nerf that was explained because they thought it frustrated Terrans when observers barely got away. Which everyone kind of memed on and made fun of, but I, as a Terran heart, I was fine with that explanation. Observer, move speed increased as a buff. Model size increased. It's fatter, so we can see it more, guys. Their model size is increased. I wonder if it's, model size, I would assume, also means it's like hitbox. I don't think it's the right word, but you know what I mean. So if like the Widow Mine's like there and the Observer is here, if the Observer is just that much fatter, does it suddenly put it in range of the Widow Mine? Now they won't barely get away because they're fatter. Aha, it's actually just balancing it out. Easier to hit with Ravagers. Yeah, that's another example for sure. Archon can now fit between single gap walls. All right, I mean, this is absurd, all right? Like, Protoss have been babied enough, okay? All right, now they don't have to worry about correctly recalling their Archons. Could Protoss stop getting all the breaks in this game? Honestly. The Observer stole all the Archons' food, now Archons are skinnier. Yeah, I think this just makes sense. I think this was ultimately an absurd thing that did cause issues in important games when it really should not have. High Templars, move speed increased. Disruptor, Purifier Orb radius reduced from 1.5 to 1.35, so the amount that it's able to clip the army. You know, if you imagine the Terran army trying to escape and it barely catches that Marauder. Maybe now it barely doesn't. Carrier, Interceptor shields reduced from 40 to 30. Interceptor attack target priority reduced from 2019. I think you'd have to see a list of target priority. I think this means the Thor no longer attacks it immediately. 20 is standard. Okay, cool, thank you. So yeah, that makes sense then. Yeah, the Thor doesn't target it now. They target the carrier, yes. I believe we did talk about that. I remembered. So that's really good. That's a buff. Not that there's too many cases of Thors being built against carriers, but... So, I mean, everything should target the carrier first, if it's in range anyways. Yeah, the Marines are, you know, gonna be firing on the Interceptors. But since they're in range of carriers most of the time, I'm not sure it's often gonna be a nerf to Marine versus Interceptor. It could make it a little bit more difficult. I mean, I guess you could argue some people will stutter step inaccurately or something. Accidentally get close to the carrier. This just means that everything targets the carrier instead of the Interceptor. New strat, run your carriers into the marine ball. Big brain! Yeah. Insert flying radius around targets increased. So it can kind of zoop around a little bit more. That's interesting. Maybe that's a attempted buff versus splash, so they don't clump up as much. Sentry build time is reduced. Now this is also something I just have never thought about. The sentry's position in StarCraft 2, I've never thought about. Not since they made the Ravager. I mean, some of these things are definitely more things have to be explained in these patch notes than I think ever before. Including when new expansions arrived, and you had to explain to people what the new unit does. Since shield batteries got nerfed, sentries got buffed to help stop a rush. I think you're spot on. I think you're absolutely right about that. That is interesting, though. We're gonna have to go back to the classic Wings of Liberty days, when the dramatic moment was whether the force field got slapped down or not. Forge. Level 1 upgrades, reduced. All the upgrades are reduced in time. I think that puts them on par with the other upgrades more. The other races' upgrades. So it's a buff, but it's not tipping Protoss over the edge. So Terran. Ghost. Enhanced Shockwaves upgrade removed. EMP increased. I don't know how much Enhanced Shockwaves actually increased EMP radius. Can someone tell me? Steady targeting canceled if target moves more than 13.5 range away from the ghost while casting. So if a lurker is about to run away, it actually does run away this time. Enhanced was 2. So it's in the middle now, baseline. I'm fine with that. I would prefer having a bigger EMP earlier than a really big EMP later. I do think Enhanced Shockwaves in late game TVP was a bit strong. That's the most I'll say about that. But what I also think is that early Terran defenses against some of the like Zealot Archon or Storm pushes was kind of too on the edge. And you still need to get to Ghost, which is a lot of the problem. But now if you do have a Ghost barely in time, it'll be a little more effective. And then steady targeting. I mean, I understand how this is fair. The problem for me is that even when they told us about this, and they told us about this 2 months ago, I already thought that ghosts weren't as overpowered as people were complaining. I understand the complaints, because I think there was like a month plus of especially Maru looking super stupidly overpowered with ghosts. But I really think that's not the case anymore. And yes, it still kind of looks bullshit when a Zerg can't retreat, because this is mostly a Zerg thing. I don't think that actually is fair. Yeah, I just don't think it's that imbalanced anymore. And whether it is, you know, looks bullshit or not is sometimes legit, like feeling and fun factor need to be considered for StarCraft as well, but I don't know, I think this actually might be a little bit too much, but maybe I'm overestimating how much range we're talking about. I don't know. Broodlord's getting speed buffed and Ghost steady targeting is getting nerfed. That's a good point. That's a fair thing to put in perspective. Well, unit can move 3.5 range away in the second it takes to snipe. Well, it definitely takes more than a second, right? What is actually the steady targeting time? That is what I'm saying, though. I might be estimating the range incorrectly. Almost a minute and a half, or a second and a half. I mean, almost absolutely. The main issues would be lurkers disengaging and broodlords disengaging. Other units do get sniped on the retreat, but it's not as important. Yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of things can actually run away now. Actually, I think maybe they might reduce the range, but who knows? We're gonna have to see it in action. This is the most questionable thing I've had so far, especially when you do compare it to some of the other things that are included in this patch note. Banshees, Hyperfoot Rota's upgrade time reduced. It is a very long upgrade. I just mentioned that actually, that cast. And its cost is reduced. I don't really want to be encouraging Banshee use, to be honest with you. I don't think Banshees as they are fine. Small numbers, good in early game situations, memey in mid to late game situations. I don't think encouraging people to play with more Banshees is actually the best StarCraft. I'm curious as to why this was suggested, what problem this is covering. I doubt this was simply them combing over StarCraft and saying, oh, this isn't used that much. Because sometimes they did that. They literally, you know, they tried to push something that wasn't supposed to be pushed. Like, they wanted the Reaper to be potentially more impactful in the mid and late game. And everyone who they talked to said, no, stop. So I don't think this is what they're doing. There must have been something that someone pointed out would be better if this was better. But I don't know what. I can't think of what. Do they want more openers in TVZ? There's already a decent amount of openers in TVZ. Does it help mech in particular? They want more mech games? I guess. I might be letting my own Banshee bias cloud my judgment, but I personally would not want them to be a late game harassing unit, because I guess what I'm thinking is that there's no way that suddenly this change will make 1 or 2 Banshees being microed on opposite sides of the maps more likely in mid and late game. What this change probably means is that, 1, professional players still won't use it all that much. And 2, amongst the professionals and the casuals, it'll encourage mass Banshees, so the 5 or 6 plus Banshees that are really annoying. And I just don't think that's impressive. I don't think that's fun. But we'll see. If this just encouraged someone to go 2 or 3 Banshees and run around the map while they're also doing their drops and their Hellion harass and whatever, then that'd be different. But I just don't think it is. All right, Cyclone. Magfield Accelerator damage bonus changed from 20 armored versus 10 versus all. Oh, I don't remember this one. So Magfield Accelerator was something that really specifically helped against armored. Now it just gives a blanket plus 10 damage to all types of units. I guess I'm fine with that. I have no strong opinions. Tell Blizzard hello. I did think about that for a second, Jahazera, but I think that's mostly been covered by the shield battery nerf anyways. Or the Void Ray nerf, rather. Yeah, it's battle mech boss versus Zerg for sure. Makes the upgrade less confusing for casuals. Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm not sure that's their intent, though. It is going to make it more all-around a good unit against, you know, like Hydras, for instance. Someone brought that up. Sensor Tower range reduced. I feel like the Sensor Tower was one of those things that the Terran players would tell other Terran players to shut up about. You know what I mean? One Terran player would be like, Sensor Towers are actually really good. You should probably get more. And the other guy's like, shh! Do you want Blizzard to know? You want us to really know that Sensor Towers are good? What are you doing? Shut up! Don't tell anyone! I feel like we kind of got away with this one for a long time. 30 to 27, I don't actually know what that looks like, but it is also the radius, right? So it's gonna be a much smaller circle. It's not that it's the radius, just I'm saying it's a circle, so all of it's gonna get, anyways. It's gonna be a small circle. Raven rework. Gas cost reduced. All right. Build time reduced. Whoa, by 13 seconds. Whoa. Raven was a slower building starport unit, but I never really thought it was dreadfully slow. Would not have expected a 13-second build time reduction. That's pretty fast, isn't it? This feels like make TVT less boring quick. That's actually one thing they brought up. I mean, basically, some of the major things they wanted to address was late game, TVZ, and TVT. Starting energy increased, so now it can interference matrix off the bat. Duration reduced from 11 to 8. I kind of like that, actually. Maybe Ravens will be a little less impactful in TVT. Auto turret's still pretty freaking good, though. And I'm thinking of those times where the Protoss has 1 Colossus and gets interference matrix. That does sometimes feel a little strong for the Terran side of things. 3 seconds is a big reduction, though. Anti-missile reduction reduced from 3 to 2. Okay. Corvette reactor upgrade removed. Whoa! What did that ever do to you? And auto turret energy cost increased from 50 to 75. So now it can start with all of its abilities as it pops, but it has less auto turrets to spam. Well, that does directly nerf. Everything combined together still pretty much directly nerfs those early tank pushes, tank Raven pushes. Even though it's cheaper and faster to build. You know what? I feel like people are just gonna get more Ravens. So I can do a few less auto turrets. What if I build 1 more Raven? We'll see about that. It's also a nerf to Proxy Reaper. You think?
Resubscription received.
Proxy Reaper?
Apparently
I could see it being a nerf
something
to
right,
the
Captain.
Reaper Hellion attack. But when's the last time Proxy Reaper made it to a Raven? Well, I guess maybe you're talking about like when they backstab. Yeah. I'm definitely thinking more of the like the 5 Reaper. Just gonna accidentally fly them all into my opponent anyways. I feel that. A bird told me they wanted Raven to be less of a hero unit. Okay. I had never actually considered that much of a problem. I do not like the idea of a mothership core. Never have, never will. But I never really considered the Raven the equivalent, like an actual hero unit. Just because you don't make a lot of them doesn't mean it's a hero unit. Miscellaneous bug fixes, quality of life. Follow acquire range reduced from 5 to 2. Switch to attacking from moving when units will switch to attacking from moving when within this range of the follow target. I've never thought about this ever in my life, but I think I know what they're saying. Is that for rallies? Yeah, I think so. This might affect more casual players, or I'm a bad good player. I've never had units follow each other, except maybe the Observer and the Protoss army, right? Any unit that I think of that I would use follow for are units that don't attack inherently anyways. Observers and Ravens and Overseers and stuff. I guess this, yeah, I'm trying to think. I guess because, yeah, you could rally, like, Vikings to your Vikings. I think I do that, actually, in Terran versus Terran. Maybe you rally Mutas to your Mutas. Dark Templar attack, blink delay reduced. Wait, wasn't that just changed? Wasn't that the last thing that was changed? The attack delay? I guess someone argued that it was now a little too 0.04 less effective than it should be. Whoever's out there who did that, I mean, calm down. Factory increased maximum spawn radius by 1. I'm going to assume, I don't actually know what this means, but I'm going to assume this is to take care of the times when you lock in a mech unit, a factory unit, because it almost always only happens with factory units. And if you build supply depots around your factory, you can lock in the unit. Starport units can't be locked in because they fly, and barracks units, I guess, are really tiny. So it does make sense. They're fat, exactly. So I think that I'm gonna guess this is exactly what this is addressing. What am I? Reduce random unburrow burrow delay. Apparently there's a random delay. No longer target Zerg eggs without a manual order. How about this? I wouldn't mind buff, you guys. Hey, just lower the supply depot. Sorry, the supply depot example was a terrible example. If you surround your factory with other factories, then yeah, the mech unit gets stuck. So that was those were all over buffs to the Widowmine, actually. Cyclone fixed an issue where lock-on could enter cooldown when the Cyclone is loaded into a medevac. Huh, did not know that existed. Lock-on no longer targets Zerg eggs! Eggs! It's been fixed. Mean that it won't target morphing Banes, Lurkers, or Ravagers on its own? I assume, perhaps incorrectly, that when they say Zerg eggs, they mean larvae. If they use the word cocoon, I would be very worried. But that's a fair question. Should probably double check that. Shield battery. Fix an issue where repeatedly using a stop command. Oh, there you go. Could increase the shield regen rate. Adept. Fix an issue where adepts cannot be ordered to cancel the shade ability when selected with adepts who are not finished warping in. Okay. Can now be ordered to load into a warp prism while shading. Automatically canceling the shade. How about that? A buff. Queen, fix an issue where initial creep tumors could be cancelled. Oh, okay. No longer unable to receive certain orders for 0.6 seconds after spawning. Attacks will no longer be blocked by certain low ground terrain features for the lurker. Sometimes they would, sometimes they wouldn't, so I have seen this in effect. Orbital commands, issue where Mule could be cast targeting refineries close to command centers. Oh. Hydralisk. Hydralisk attacked faster at melee range. Yep, I saw someone mention that earlier. I didn't know that. An issue where Morph to Lurker would be cancelled with a smart command issued immediately after the Morph command. Okay. Attack target priority increase from 10 to 20 for stasis wards. So they are going to be attacked. Oh, that's actually kind of a bummer. They put it in a bug fix, so maybe it was legitimately a bug, but it was kind of a cool bug. So this means that you no longer have to focus fire on it in the middle of a fight if they try to stasis ward. It should just be attacked along with everything else. I actually thought that was cool, Micro. Affected by stasis can be issued any non-build commands that have only move commands. So I guess you can shift Q stuff now. Raven, fixing a chi units affected by interference matrix cannot be issued stop. Where units affected by interference matrix would walk forward below their attack range when given attack move commands. I think I've experienced this and didn't even really know it. Yes, this is why I've lost all my TVTs. Nidus Swarm, fix a visual bug. Nidus creep behavior. Mutalisk, attack launch sound would play each time the attack bounced. Zerglings cannot receive queued morph to Baneling commands. That's important. Fix an issue where Zerglings and Swarmos cannot be given commands while unburrowing. Fix an issue where morph to Ravager would be cancelled with smart commands. Liberators could not be given certain orders immediately after being ordered to unsiege. Worker units no longer need to wait for full deceleration before beginning an attack. Oh my god, a worker buff. Ghost steady targeting can now be manually cancelled. Oh, I don't think I've ever tried. Yeah, these are all, maybe one or two aren't really the biggest things, but these are all impactful bug fixes. But what an interesting thing to arrive. An early Christmas present for the StarCraft 2 community. And a reminder that there are, in fact, some people still working at StarCraft. Oh, I agree. Just play like Mario. Snipe cancel is huge. I never once considered doing it. I knew my own limits on micro. It's obviously very important for the professionals. Hopefully we get more good news soon about the future of StarCraft 2. And I'll say for this one, the summary of this one is I'm very interested to see how it works out. There's only one upgrade change. Only one change that I am hesitant about, and that's the steady targeting change. But the rest, I'm okay with, I guess. I know what they're trying to fix, and I respect that. Very cool to get this. Very cool, guys. It seems like everyone has strong opinions on this one. A much bigger patch than I think people would have also been expecting. Moving to upgrades the caster nerf since we don't have to remember them anymore. Caster buff. It nerfs the casters who thought they sounded smart.